There's companies in Tesla that we don't even know about that are being incubated.
You know who called me biased the other day? Gordon.
Oh yeah.
Gordon, he says you're not allowed to talk Tesla because nobody prices supercharging networks in, and Tesla's just getting this right now from the government.
Yep. So it's one of those things where we know Tesla's like 3 to 5 steps ahead of everything. When I spent time about 18 months ago with Elon talking about FSD, he told me,
welcome back to another episode of the Meet Kevin Show. Today we are confronting the Silicon, the founder and leader would like to say of the Tesla Owners Club, Silicon Valley.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. Silicon Valley. So that must mean like SF, homelessness. What's going on up here?
Well, Silicon Valley obviously stretches literally pretty much from San Jose all the way up to San Francisco. But really a lot of the companies, I would say probably in the past 2 to 3 years have actually moved out of San Francisco, come further south. Or potentially even moved out of the area. So the Silicon Valley, in a lot of ways, I really see it like Palo Alto to San Jose. It's still, we have a homeless problem, but not like San Francisco.
But you're like, this whole area is dying. California's going to hell, right?
No.
Like every company's
no
moving
one has
out.
left.
Okay.
There's of course a couple of companies. I mean, even Tesla, they moved their headquarters out, but the engineering headquarters is still here. Mm-hmm. Oracle even moved out. There's companies that have left their headquarters. A lot of it's for tax reasons, but this is still the engineering hub really.
Oh, so even Oracle might leave their engineers here?
Yeah, I would say they're leaving a lot of talent here. I mean, most of the companies are, right? Okay. I mean, even Legacy Auto has brought their company. I mean, if you look at the Tesla headquarters in Palo Alto, Ford, all the other legacy companies are literally down the street.
Wow. Okay, so a little overblown then.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
So you don't see, I mean, people look at San Jose, for example, and they say, what? $1 million for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. What a ripoff. Is it a ripoff?
Based on your income, no. I mean, the average salary here is over $250,000. Wow. $100,000 is actually seen as low income here now, which is insane.
Oh my gosh.
But really, it comes down to where people make the money is the equity in the companies.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to be. So hopefully you can make it at one of these companies. I've had friends, at Amazon and Apple over a decade, and you've seen the run up on those companies, and so they're all doing really well. So really $1 million home becomes kind of just a number at that point, based on if you're at a company, but others may struggle if they don't end up at a company that does really well. Wow. Right? So I would say yes, $1 million maybe look like it's a lot, but at the end of the day it comes down to the equity that you get in the companies and obviously in your base salary as well.
So obviously you've got a big reputation for Tesla opinions, Tesla everything. When is this damn thing going to be magnificent? I'm pissed, okay? It's like it's part of the magnificent. Why? Why is it part of the magnificent? It hasn't been magnificent.
Like, are you talking about the company itself?
No, just the stock price, dude. Okay, I just want more money.
Honestly, I think, you have a lot that has, whether it's macro, whether it's interest rates over the past year, potentially even some of the headwinds from the Twitter or X acquisition. You and I were talking a little bit about that before, but really it's just, in my opinion, it's still way undervalued. The regular analyst, Wall Street analyst,
like Gordon,
I don't even bother mentioning his name because, I don't even know why he's even ranked, to be honest. He is ranked, to be honest, but he's at the bottom. But, people don't understand this company. It's like saying Amazon is just a book company, right? Back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, that's what they were. And now what are they? They literally do everything. Yeah. They make clothes. They're a pharmaceutical company now. They pretty much control the whole e-commerce world really in the US now, right? And they're doing so much more. I mean, robots are now being, rolled out in their factories for the delivery centers. They own a stake in Rivian too so it's just a lot of that. I think it's, Tesla really is, it's not a car company. That's the Amazon to bookstore.
That is such a good analogy.
Tesla is the, car to really, it's an AI robotics company.
Yeah. I mean, 70% of Amazon's EBIT bottom line basically now is servers. Would
AWS?
Yeah. Like, would you have thought that a book company would become
Nope.
one of the richest server companies in the world. That is such a good analogy. It's like leverage something like either books in the case of Amazon or cars in the case of Tesla to then create the foundations for maybe really profitable things like the Optimus or FSD or what
exactly,
or even Tesla potentially getting. Are they going to get into servers like we hear Dojo's so great, and then Elon on X, yeah, we just bought 10,000 H100s from Nvidia because they're so good. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is you're just seeing the beginning of what this company is doing. I mean, the amount of data that this company has is absolutely insane. From your driving to all of the charging stats to the
Does that matter? Like any of that? Does it matter?
I think it makes a huge difference because now you're talking about the next computer on wheels, and really, it's like if you want to look at just user stats, like if you look at how much people spend time on their phones and how that is
while in the car.
Yeah, but now it's in the car.
yeah.
It's now, where are they going? What are they doing? Right? It's almost like having an Apple Watch, but being carried with the person, literally wherever they're going. So all of that data at the end of the day, and thankfully they've opened it up to third-party apps now. It's going to be huge. I mean, I think it's really the future of user data is going to be, in cars. Right, and just seeing
that's
all
fascinating.
Of that.
So when it comes to growth, we see like these kind of S curves for Tesla. What is your expectation for the next like growth cycle? Do you think it's going to be Optimus based? Do you think it'll be FSD, a new release, Cybertruck scaling?
All the above. I mean,
ads on the windshield.
Yeah, or on my license plate. The insane thing is you're just talking about the five main things. I mean, this company is a bunch of small startups within one. There's companies in Tesla that we don't even know about that are being incubated.
Tell us more. What are some examples?
I think there's certain things I can share and not share just because of the stuff that's been shared with me, but there's again, you're dealing with a company that the amount of data that they have, the amount of capabilities that they have. I mean, if you think of the supercharger network that's being built out, I mean, they're the next gas station in a lot of cases.
Oh, wow.
The energy business is going to be insane and hopefully help with a lot of their margin this upcoming year and the years to come. I mean, that's not even baked into the valuation. Sure, you might say, okay, FSD kind of is, Optimus isn't.
Not at all.
And so the amount of progress too, if you look at even the amount of progress in Optimus is insane.
Yeah,
right? Like you watch Boston Dynamics, and no hate against them, but it's like they've been running this dog around for like decades. And it's like literally like, okay, guys, what's next? Like, are we gonna do something other than jumping on top of a table?
Yeah, or dancing or
whatever. And here Optimus is like, I was at the AI day in 2020, September 30th, and literally it walked for the first time in front of us. And then a year later, or 18 months later, it's doing yoga, it's doing dance parties. I mean, the video of that. So like, you literally have like Tesla is solving full self-driving on the road, which is harder than probably walking. But now what are they doing? They're just taking that same technology and applying it to, being in a factory, being, at home and helping out with chores and the mundane and monotonous, boring things that no one wants to do. Mm-hmm. It's gonna completely change all of that. So I think, to answer your question about the next, it's more of like, it's going to be the realization of FSD is going to be next. I think probably the closest thing, if not Optimus, but really the Robotaxi, the $25,000 car. Even if they have to put a wheel in it, the $25,000 car is going to be a game changer.
A wheel?
I think there's debate. Yes, exactly. I think if it was up to Elon, no steering wheel.
I thought he was spare tire.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And I think there was some of they alluded to that a little bit in the Walter Isaacson biography, a little bit about the debate between a wheel and not a wheel. So it's just one of those things where there's a lot ahead of this company. It's just, and you have the best company to execute it on, right? I mean, this company is executing at an insane rate. So
the steer-by-wire is probably straight from the Robotaxi team. Wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because Robotaxi would be no steering wheel.
No column, no steering column.
Exactly. Yep. So it has to be a computer steering it. So why not 100%. Start testing the steer-by-wire technology in the Cybertruck?
And they have. They have it out. It's on the road now.
And now it exists.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Last week when you were talking with Sandy Monroe and Joe, you mentioned that you believe the $25,000 car or the Robotaxi or the van might be released this year. Do you still think that? And why do you think they'll be coming out this year?
Yeah, I think, well, so Elon said in his interview with Sandy that he's reviewing the production line weekly right now. So it's one of those things where it's happening. We all know that. I mean, there's even rumors now that the Model 3 refresh is being produced in the Fremont factory. So it's one of those things where we know Tesla's like 3 to 5 steps ahead of everything. Sure. Like they were building the Cybertruck production line out of Fremont with a tent, you know, the infamous tent. So we know that like, and this is before it was fully ramped. So they were setting up parts of the Cybertruck production line, not even in Austin, just to start testing it out, making sure things are running straight. So I think, you know, they alluded to it, I believe at the shareholder and investor day, you know, they had the little images of these future products. And I think that
neither of which were a Cybertruck, by the way.
Yeah, true.
Those two covered up things were not Cybertrucks.
Exactly. And their mission is, at the end of the day, is to take gas vehicles off the road, and they need a $25,000 car to do that. Something that's affordable. I mean, even the Model 3 with tax incentives. I mean, even you get a used one. You could get a used one for $25,000.
Why don't they just cut the size of the battery and get a 25K car out as soon as possible, even if it was just like another option of the 3. Just cut the battery in half. I know people, like, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't sell, but I think for a lot of people, do you really need more than 120 miles, say, of charge if you cut a 3 in half? And now you have more efficiency in the vehicle. You could probably get the cost of the car down another $5K. Now you look at incentives, you might be knocking on the door of, you know, $22,000.
Yeah.
What do you think about? Well, like, why don't they just do that?
Well, I think they're thinking differently than that. Just I think.
Oh, too basic. I'm too basic.
No, I think
that's basic, bitch.
No, they've alluded to the next gen platform, the third next gen platform. So they're thinking about a brand new platform in general to build it on. It probably is going to be reduced battery size, obviously, because the average American is driving 40 miles.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those things where they definitely are thinking about, you know, how to, like, what's next. I mean, if you think of the Model Y to the Cybertruck, the amount of manufacturing and engineering that went into that and the level of tech that was upgraded, the 48 volts, the steer by wire. I mean, you could keep going, but it's just,
those are the groundwork items for the 25K car. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. The 48 volt architecture and the cost savings of the copper and otherwise alone. That is a tool to help create the 25K.
Yeah, it totally could be. And it's just one of those things where I think it's not just about the battery size. I think that's one aspect of it.
Good point.
But I think as far as the next gen platform, they are thinking about the cheapest way to make a car and how do you get there, right? Because it's one of those things where that's what they did literally with the Cybertruck too, right? With the giga castings and the steer by wire and the 48 volt, all that stuff is, and making their own metal. Yeah. I mean, using air to bend the thing too. Like,
it's incredible.
I mean, it's incredible. So every car that they do is just a completely different level of ingenuity and in manufacturing.
I loved what you just said about, by the way, that Tesla is essentially the next gas station. If somebody could have told me 50 years ago, do you want to invest in the gas stations?
Yep.
You know, because everybody's going to not have one car at home, but, you know, 4 cars at home or whatever. Gas stations will be everywhere. Like, of course you would want to invest in that. That's so interesting. And that's something that nobody prices supercharging networks in. And Tesla's just getting this right now from the government. Free money, man.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody says, oh, you know, Biden doesn't want to mention Tesla, you know, promotes GM or whatever. Fine. That's probably because of lobbying and donor money or whatever. But like, what's the government actually doing? Showering Tesla with money for these superchargers. I mean, they're the best.
Yep.
I would not want to charge with any other charger.
Exactly. And like, I just saw there's one, a V4 charger being built by my house, and it has the Magic Dock built into it along with a screen.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
The Magic Dock is essentially non-Teslas.
Okay.
That use a different adapter.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay. So what Magic is?
The Magic, it's just, it's pretty much the Tesla charger plugs into an adapter and makes it so you can charge like with CCS.
That's what they give you with the kit in every Tesla.
Used to. They stopped giving those out.
Yeah, that's true. Now they charge like $400 or something crazy for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But either way, like, so now non-Teslas can come to V4 superchargers. There's even like going to be a screen so you can potentially run a credit card through it. So that's like,
interesting.
and BP just is paying Tesla. They announced that deal. It's a $100 million deal to buy supercharger equipment from them. Best Western.
Wait. BP is buying supercharger equipment from Tesla, so they're going to BP brand it. So they're
That's the
basically
expectation.
Yeah.
Really?
BP,
That's
it's like
really
at gas
interesting.
stations, BP chargers, but it's Tesla technology underneath.
Right, because Shell wants to get into chargers as well. But these companies, they haven't created the chargers. So basically,
Exactly.
you could go white label it, essentially. It's like, let's go to the winery and we'll put our logo on it, basically.
ChargePoint is doing that. I believe it was Shell. It was a Shell gas station where they had, it said ChargePoint, but it also said Shell or Chevron. It was either one of those companies. Best Western is now putting in the small little destination chargers at their hotels, over 2,000. So I guess they are the next gas station. And at the end of the day, as they continue to eat up more of the, the market really for this, they're going to be the next place that you buy your charging equipment from, that you essentially charge your car at. I mean, it's the full stack.
That's incredible. I mean, if they like, ChargePoint is just that alone, a charging company, and they suck compared to Tesla.
Yeah.
And that's, like we said, not built into the Tesla valuation, including when we talked about, let's shout out, we just did an interview for your either Twitter or I'm assuming you'll post it on X. So make sure to look for it there. But one of the things I touched on is, I think, even beyond just the charging, but as soon as they have the first Optimus actually selling, and not necessarily yet for home, that's like the long-term future. I think we can all agree, but getting the Optimus to just unload semi-trucks every day, back and forth all day long, and now you make freight so much more efficient because the trucks aren't waiting for the next shift workers to come in. It's robots doing it. So just the scale that can come from this. So the desirability of having the Optimus in a factory will be massive, but the catalyst of when they sell the first order of Optimus robots, just even for that basic purpose, what do you think is going to happen? The stock has to go up.
It has to go.
What's your target on this? When are you going to sell it?
Like for me, I think I do believe in some of the stuff that Elon is saying, that this could be the most valuable company and could potentially combine with, Aramco and Apple.
I had a very concerning nightmare about that. I had a nightmare that was true, but it was true not because Tesla went up, but because Apple. The other two went bankrupt.
That may keep me up at night, but
It literally kept him up, I guess. He had nightmares about it.
Oh my God, Elon's thing came true, but it's only because Tesla halved in value and the others went bankrupt. Sorry.
I think for me, like, my minimum target is 750 to 1,000 at least.
Okay.
Like, I definitely think there's a lot of stuff that is just not baked into the valuation, and they're going to be game changers, like the solar business, the battery business. I mean, I don't know about you. You obviously live in Southern California, but like, I'm literally a virtual power plant now with my solar and my 2 power walls. Like, PG&E was shutting off my electricity 7 to 10 days a year, but now I don't care because go ahead, shut it off. I have the sun. Thankfully, we live in sunny California, and you have the sun pretty much, over 300 days a year.
Right.
And so I'm my own virtual power plant, and I can sell it back during peak hours to PG&E. So they're paying me something, like $7 a kilowatt. And I got my check, or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that are just not baked in. And if you are a Wall Street analyst, you're going to try to create some random model, and there's just stuff you can't factor in. So,
how do you factor all that?
If we could ask Grok or ChatGPT to be like, look at the Wall Street analysts on valuing Amazon or even Apple during certain days, like what were their price targets, and how are they taking into consideration of like what we have today?
That's a really good idea. Like when Amazon was first public, like what were the valuations then? That would be really interesting. It's wild. I just pulled this up. BP boosts EV charging network with $100 million order of Tesla ultra-fast chargers.
Yep.
The agreement forms just part of BP's plan to invest up to $1 billion in EV chargers by 2030, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if They start with this $100 million test, and then a lot of that $1 billion goes straight to Tesla because it's the best charging equipment. But then I would suspect that honestly $1 billion is pretty low for that investment from BP. That'll explode, and this sets the standard then for Royal Dutch Shell, whatever, to also get it.
All of them.
That's very interesting. I never thought about Tesla as essentially a white label charging network, because you think of Tesla superchargers, they're Tesla branded. But I mean, in the future, you could be going to Shell and you're pulling a charging cable out to charge your whatever electric vehicle is. You don't even know it's Tesla inside. Ron Barron, that's he has this, much like it used to be Intel inside in computers, Intel Pentium or whatever inside. Ron Barron's thesis is that in the future, cars will be operating on Tesla's network, basically the FSD network. And so it's Tesla inside. Well, could that also be for the chargers? That's such an interesting thing you brought up.
Well, if you think of Ford, right? Like the one thing
Who's
that's
that?
going to kill Ford.
What?
Sorry.
They used to make
Fix or
cars in like
Repair
the
Daily.
30s, right? Yeah.
Fix or Repair Daily, if you spell their acronym.
Found on road dead.
Or Ford spelled backwards, drivers return on foot.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's a good one.
Enough birding that. But
They are
either
the
way-
only American company, manufacturer of cars besides Tesla, who's never gone BK.
That's
Yep.
true.
Hey, shout out to them.
We're biased here. You know who called me biased the other day? Gordon.
Oh yeah.
Gordon, he says you're not allowed to talk Tesla because I have no bias on
I
Tesla.
saw that.
He said that, and that I have a Tesla bias, and that he has no bias. I'm like, if anybody has a bias, Gordon. So I like the guy. I think his analysis isn't good. I don't think he has a bad heart, but he's got to do what he's got to do. You know, I do want to go
Gotta pay
visit
the
him again to
bills.
interview him again. I want him to actually try FSD.
he not?
No, he refuses to try it because he's afraid of it. And I'm like, bro, how can you analyze Tesla without trying FSD?
that has to be his thesis. But
Sorry.
yeah, no. So Ford. So long story short, Ford is the thing that you see on the front of the car. But at the end of the day, they've manufactured out like it's 500 suppliers making that car. So BP could be saying, hey, this is BP, gas or charging or sorry, BP charging, but it's really Tesla on the back end, right? So it's just one of those things where who are these gas companies as they make this transition into gas to EV charging places? Like, where are they going to go? They're going to go to Tesla. Some of the other charging networks have decent products, but Tesla's going to be
Name
the
one.
leader.
Seriously, name one. I'm curious. Like, what? This would be news to me. What's a decent one?
Enphase has a home charger.
Home, okay, well, for like home network, sure, but what about for like charging your car outside
I've
of
had
home?
decent experiences at EVgo.
I've never found one that
Like
works.
Electrify America is complete garbage.
Yes, I agree with that.
ChargePoint is they don't have enough fast chargers, to be honest. It's like when I go to the library and get to leave the car there for 20 hours. But I've had a good overall experience at the EVgo stations. Like there was actually by my house, I had 3 miles left on my car, and the latest supercharger was 4 miles. So I took it to the EVgo, and it ran perfectly there.
Hey, by the way, if you haven't yet gotten lifetime access to the Gold course, make sure you do that. It's linked in the description down below. We've got thousands of people who watch in our course member live streams every day as we analyze the market for you, but not just the market, fundamentals on different stocks every day, stocks you're submitting, stocks you're asking about, analyzing your real estate. Get lifetime access to this. And the new lectures that are in the Gold course, we just expanded it by over 20%, constantly adding content to it on productivity, entrepreneurship, insurance, you name it, how to build a business, how to build your wealth, stocks, real estate, it's all in there. So check it out, link below. What about, so the 25K car, or actually let's ask this, Robotaxi. What were we, 10 years away? Like when are we going to see this?
Yeah, so if I was to give an estimate on this, I would say 3 to 5.
Okay.
So I don't think
This decade.
Yeah, like I mean, most of my driving nowadays, to be honest with you, and again, I'm going to caveat that I live in the burbs of the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm not in the right in San Francisco.
Sure.
So like most of my
Omar
drives,
is all the time. I see his
yeah,
videos.
exactly, and LA. I mean, the guy lives between NorCal, SoCal. That's
true.
So he's up there. But for me, like most of my drives in the suburbs are amazing. Like, and so it's like, even if you had a Robotaxi, maybe you geo-lock it to specific areas, but like think of Ubers being replaced by these Robotaxis in just, call it from like Palo Alto to San Jose. I mean, that's going to replace a lot of workers and a lot of cars.
Oh,
on
that's
the route.
interesting because you don't actually. I see. That's another thing I didn't think about. You don't need the robotaxi to be able to do everything yet. It just needs to work in certain areas.
Exactly.
Like a functional cruise. Or,
Yeah.
What cruise that doesn't mow people down? Yeah.
Oh, that's so gruesome.
That was a pretty graphic video.
I should not be laughing.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that was
wow.
horrible. But and then that
She's
whole
okay,
business,
so it's okay. Yeah. She was
that
okay.
whole business died literally that
After
next
that.
day.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I think CEO resigned. Then they
it's
paused
just
the automated driving, made it so you have to have a driver. Then they canceled that too, and we're like, we're just going back to the drawing board.
And it also came
That's
out
insane.
that I think it was actually the Times reported that they were using 1.4, I think, driver or employees per self-driving vehicle. So it's like, wait a minute. Yep. You have 1.4 people per driving vehicle sitting in an office somewhere or whatever, supporting the actual functioning vehicles. So you may as well just have somebody in the car. But I will say, I cannot wait until we have Ubers without people inside because I'm tired of talking to people. like I don't know. So,
You're gonna have an AI talking to you.
like mute, but I don't like. I don't. Like sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just so back to back and working and talking all day long. It's like I get in the car. It's like close the door. It's peace. It's like my little shell away.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, it's going to be a game changer. I mean, you saw Uber and even Lyft kind of making some investments in those and obviously shut it down for various reasons. But, if Tesla's making the car, they're going to probably be running the software. They're going to be running the whole network. And maybe even Uber has a big partnership. And they had some incentives for their drivers to buy Teslas at the end of the year. So there's already a decent relationship there. But really,
I want to see the numbers on that. You're right. I think it was $3,000 if you did 100 drives with your new Tesla Model 3. I think it was. I'm not sure exactly which it was, but they would give you something like $3,000. I'm like, that's actually amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, the question too is, do you think that even the Robotaxi network is fully baked into the valuation now?
Oh, zero. No,
Yeah,
I don't think it's built in at all.
So it's like an Uber and a Turo all together. So there's really just like, I think at this point, the problem with Tesla is more of like, there's so much that they can do. It's about prioritizing ruthlessly on the things that they should do, right? They could make all of these products. They could make a motorcycle, which Elon obviously shot down. Yeah, because of his childhood experience. But, there's so many things that they could do, a boat, other stuff.
Well,
but
what happened with that?
I believe, I think he fell off once or twice when he was a kid.
Because he was like a Tom Cruise previously. Like he flew planes, right? I think he was a pilot.
He drove a McLaren F1, crashed it in the canyons.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I know he had a traumatic experience on bikes because I think he kept asking his dad for one and finally got one. So he won't make that. But long story short, there's so many products that this company can do.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like, what should they do? Because we haven't even talked about what about the App Store, right? Imagine an Apple App Store in your Tesla. We all know that that's there with the third party.
Yeah, but what do you do? Like, in fairness, like I never use my infotainment thing, like, other than the nav.
You're never in your car.
Oh.
Well, it really.
You have a laptop blocking your screen.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, well,
a laptop stand. I'm surprised that, like, I mean, I've been pulled over with the laptop stand over the last decade, and I never get asked about the laptop.
I think it's because all the cops know you.
Is that a good or bad thing? No, I'm kidding.
It depends.
Yes,
depends on time of night.
But I think, like, even if you think of like let's say you're driving your Tesla, even the back screen, like what can your kids use? I mean, obviously they have a small app store with YouTube and some of the Netflix and some of the other stuff, but there are issues with charge time still right now. Like, it still takes you 20 to 35 minutes depending on what you're trying to do. So what are you going to do? Are you going to walk into the store, or if you stay in your car, what are you using it for? Like my kids, they're playing the games, they're they're watching the YouTube and Netflix and stuff like that. So there's a lot that's there. But imagine too, you start throwing in like Grok and some of the other chat stuff as well to, like, as you're driving it, you're having a conversation and potentially even doing work.
That's a good idea.
Zoom as well, right? Like, especially when COVID was hitting, like I would have loved to have taken some calls in my car with Zoom, but so that, in my opinion, even is the future, and they've launched that. But it's just, as things can become more of the norm, And there's not even a taboo to be sitting in your car and taking a Zoom call, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. Like almost like FaceTime with the camera that's in the car already. The only thing I hate about Zoom though is every time I need to log into a freaking meeting, it wants to do a software update before I go in.
Of course.
And it's like, I only got 30 seconds not to be late here. And you want to do a software
5-minute update.
Oh, God.
It's so true. And you can't say no. Almost.
You can't. Yeah. Oh,
Right?
just
Jeez.
Zoom. Whoever thought
What
of
a
this
mess.
stuff? I don't know. Just be on. I could see the guys. Just be on time. It don't work that way.
I'm still a believer in the Tesla vision of pulling up to work, and then my car can go park itself. Or if I got the spare battery, I can go drive as an Uber, pick people up, drop people off. You mentioned geofencing, which I thought was interesting because you've spoken in the past about the differences between Tesla's FSD Progress and all these other companies. Well, first off, I wanted to ask, what do you think are some of the different challenges that Tesla faces with FSD versus some of these other companies like Cruise that don't seem to be making much progress right now?
Yeah.
Well,
We don't want to get cruised.
Yeah, literally. Talk about a business flopping over in a matter of a day. But,
Yeah. Well, and I think GM paid like 35 mil for him too.
Oops.
Sorry, Bill. Let me get that right.
Either way was overpaying.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, well, that's the valuation has probably dropped 100-fold. But yeah, no. So I would say for FSD, I think, when you look at these other companies like the Waymos, the Cruises of the world before obviously they stopped, they were able to focus on 3 blocks of San Francisco, 3 blocks of like, LA and some of these other places. So they become experts in, 3 blocks.
Phoenix.
But
that's true.
no one is tackling general autonomy, right? Where it's like, you can, like Elon's even said when he was doing the full self-driving V12 demo, he was saying, at some point you just put in coordinates and it'll find its way. It does not need to see the map. It doesn't need to see like the roads. It's just going to be able to look through the vision, the pure vision, and get there. Even now, actually, if you type in, like at least in my Tesla, when I type in a location, it goes to the coordinates. So it's already programmed. It just goes to the coordinates, not even the actual like street and all that. It just goes there and then you have to click it again. So that's really like, I think the difference between, I think that the companies like Cruise and Waymo, they're thinking about it from a very like honed in and like zoomed in view. Like 100 zoom or whatever it is, versus Tesla's like, we need to build something that can be used anywhere. So whether I'm in Montana versus Miami versus, San Francisco versus Los Angeles, I can turn it on versus a dirt road. I was at a winery the other day. We had one of the, up in San Joaquin Valley, we had, I forgot the name of the city, but up towards Sacramento, there was, we went to a winery and I literally turned on FSD going around a lake. And it was a dirt road, and it was just like there was nothing in the navigation to even tell it where to go. It was just going, and it was able to see the dirt road. So it wasn't even a paved road. So I think that's ultimately what's going to shape these, because how do you even scale a Waymo? So do you just roll it out slowly by city? You'd have to, and the amount of capital to do that versus,
and then the first one changes, then they add a lane or whatever.
Totally, right? And things change all the time, right? Lanes change.
But okay, so maybe Cruise won't bankrupt Tesla, but BYD will. What say you?
Well, I think we also had a little bit of this conversation. I mean, there's been this narrative by Legacy Auto in the media that saying that EV demand is slowing down. But really, if you look at BYD, even sure that BYD is focused obviously in China and there's subsidies and all that other stuff. But with BYD becoming from a quarter volume perspective, sure, last quarter they beat Tesla, but this just shows that there is a demand for EVs, and this is the future, right? Because we all know when you compare a $30,000 like Toyota Corolla versus a Model 3 now, it's cheaper per mile with a Model 3.
100%.
And like I literally like my kids won't know what an oil change is. They won't know necessarily what it means to go to the gas station. They won't necessarily know what it means to have your engine break down, your internal combustion engine, which literally is like the irony of that name, right? Because you're driving something that can literally blow up.
It's a bomb, yeah.
Exactly. And so that, like electric vehicles is the future. BYD being in the picture is just we have Apple and Android and other even within Android there's like 20 to 30 brands. Sorry if that's a taboo.
Android.
We fight about this all the time.
Man, you're the reason why I get the green messages.
Yeah,
Exactly. You had to be that person.
You guys are colorist.
But like I like when you think of one of those things where it's like, even with Apple and Android, right? It's just one of those things where Android, their operating system is actually similar to probably how Tesla even rolls out their software updates. Like I have a legacy Model X. I get updates, but mainly on full self-driving, not really with the UI anymore, because they're tackling it from like, what is the mass volume? So most people are using Samsung Android phones. They're not going to prioritize the Nokias and some of the other ones. They're going to prioritize what are the millions of people using. And that's ultimately how they tackle their software updates and updates. But sorry, I know I'm going on a tangent, but back to electric vehicles, like there needs to be multiple players, and there's going to be big players in Europe. There's going to be big players in China. It's just part of the story. And again, we talked a little bit about this, is that BYD is not trying to tackle certain things, right? Like full self-driving and all that other stuff, right? It's with Tesla, they are. And so with Tesla, they're going to pretty much own every nut and bolt on the car, plus the software. And I think you mentioned it, Mikey. It was specifically about the licensing at some point too, right? They're going to be, not only are they going to be the gas station, they're going to be the software that's licensed out. They're going to be the system that makes the whole car communicate. They're going to probably own the App Store. Again, the Uber and the Turo, all just like built into like.
Yeah, I wonder with like. I guess an easy analogy here for anyone watching might be, would you rather a $25,000 BYD car or a $25,000 Tesla? Come on, like that's going to be a no-brainer.
Exactly.
So I think that's a really good way to put it. Is like when Tesla starts introducing, or even the Model 3 is close to that already, like you had mentioned. But would you rather have this ground up everything Tesla, the software stack, the nuts and bolts, as you're saying, the charging system, everything, or the I like that analogy what you said with Ford. It's just like a collection of all these different manufacturers and parts producers, which I'm sure to many extents, Tesla's uses plenty of other manufacturers as well. But the software, I've never found a good product where the company just bolts on somebody else's software. I mean, maybe an Android world would be a good example of it. But like, I don't know. I mean, usually... It's clunky.
So Jim Farley spoke about this, right? Because he's got this ball and chain that he can't get rid of, right? Which is gas cars. And he said, I believe it was on the Fully Charged episode, where he said you have 500 companies essentially writing different code on different platforms. So they might be using different languages, and now try to have it communicate together. That is like the worst nightmare. So that, because what happens is a piece of the car will go into an auto bidder, and then whoever wins that out gets the rights to like make that part, but they can write the language for making that part operate in whatever they want. There's no like uniformity there.
Oh, in terms of code.
Exactly. And making, so that's the problem. So now you have like 50 left hands trying to talk to each other.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. And that's where maybe the sort of Tesla ecosystem can consolidate that all into its code base. Almost kind of like when you want to submit an app on the Apple App Store, it's got to be done Apple's way and go through those. Interesting. And I mean, Apple makes a lot of money, obviously, from their App Store. How could Tesla potentially make money from an App Store? I mean, like downloading YouTube is going to cost.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where they could create. It's similar to probably like the App Store in itself, right? Subscriptions being bought through that, right? Maybe you start purchasing like if you really think of like Netflix being how they split it up. Maybe there's a subscription just for your Tesla potentially in there. You could buy potentially movies in there. You could buy shows and subscription to shows, but you could also buy apps as well, specifically made potentially, who knows, maybe there's they're going to charge to have X integrated with Grok and all that other stuff, and you have to buy a specific feature there.
Ad supported Tesla.
Yeah.
Cheaper car, like the 25K car, ad supported.
Every time you turn it on, you have to your eyes have to be on the ad for 5 seconds.
You must watch 5-second non-skippable ad.
That's coming.
I
bet
it.
you. I don't want it.
I don't want it.
You know what's really funny actually is, so I read the Disney last Disney earnings call and the Netflix earnings call. Netflix is at about 30% new sign up going to ad supported. Disney,
Wow.
about 50%. And then I came up with a theory. The adults are like, let the kids have the ads. So put the ads on the kids' monitor in the back of the car too. I'm like, wow. Yep, classic. The world would work that way. But that is interesting. Ads in future cars. Yeah, I guess there's really no shortage to potential verticals for Tesla. I mean, that's just like what you said with Amazon going from bookstore to this. Do they prioritize servers at all? I mean, like, I want Dojo.
Like, I think they are. I mean, I think they're realizing like the future. I mean, imagine you're going to need a computer or really servers that can process all of the human data that are going to be with Optimus versus the roads. And they're going to have to break that up. I mean, even now, I think if I was to step into Tesla's world and look at their analytics, the biggest thing would be like, how do you even make up KPIs for all the stuff that they're doing? And because there's so much data, like, how would you even break that up? And then more importantly, like, how do you then train it? Then, right?
Training.
Because the other thing is, like, when Elon was doing the FSD demo for full self-driving V12, he was saying, we didn't train it to take, deal with stoplights. And some of the other stuff, it's just learning now. And if it screws up, which it did, he had one disengagement. He's like, we'll just feed it more videos. And so I think that's going to be the big thing, is like, how do you deal with all of that processing,
all that data.
Yeah.
So are the unions going to take over?
In my opinion, no, not for Tesla. Whether that happens actually, I was having a conversation this morning with Sweden. I think there might be even certain countries that force it. But my understanding of Tesla employees in the US is they don't want it. Two, they actually make more money. I mean, I'm meeting service techs that roll up to my house, Tesla service techs, that are millionaires because of how the stock run up has done over 7 years.
Wow.
And so, they may, again, I don't know the exact numbers. They may be getting paid, 35 to 50 an hour, but because of the stock and the equity, because they literally got it at nothing and it split a total of like 2-3 times, it's like 15. One share back then was worth 15 now.
It's crazy.
They're becoming millionaires because of that. And so in my opinion is they're making more money than union workers are, and union workers aren't getting stock, right? So
that's interesting.
They don't even control as an employee, I'm a shareholder of this company. I want it to do well, but as a union worker, that's not the case. You're working for somebody else twice almost.
It's like
you're
it's
not
low
even
risk, low reward.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Yeah, Costco just put out a letter. I respected. They had a one store vote to unionize, and their letter was, "We're not upset at the employees for unionizing. We're upset at ourselves for not." What was it? I think you actually brought up.
I remember reading this. Yeah,
is we're upset that we didn't take care of them essentially enough.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly how they worded it, but the argument is like, if you pay enough, your employees won't want a union. Because you're taken care of.
And everyone at Tesla, whether you're a janitor all the way up to the vice president or CEO, you get stock, right? So that's the biggest thing here is that. And I think like I can't tell you how many employees, especially like people that are running like the Tesla Fremont factory, that started as a sales advisor and they end up just working hard. And next thing you know, they've done very well for themselves over 5 to 8 years. I've met so many of them who started doing nothing and they're doing very well, and they're in multi-million-dollar homes.
That's wild. Hey, quick note from Mikey and I. If you want to see more content from us, we've got the Meet Kevin and Mikey podcast channel. It's linked in the description down below, where we talk about a lot of things, not just Tesla, but also stocks and politics. A lot of juicy things over there. We like juicy. When buy the dip on San Francisco?
I would, man, it's so hard to predict because, you live in California, like it almost feels like, especially, in certain areas, there's never really, a really like these areas, like Vegas. I know, like my dad lives out there, and they went 50% of what their original valuation was during, the huge issue back with mortgages, right? Back in 2008, 2012. But here it maybe saw a 25% dip. I mean, I grew up in this area. So for me, it's one of those weird things where it's like, in my opinion, there's never a right time to necessarily get in. It's just getting in. That's what I tell my friends who are just asking that question. Obviously it's slowed down a lot because of the interest rates, but also here again, it just depends on what company are you at. Because I mean, even on my street, like I've had 2 Apple engineers move in the past 3 to 5 years. And it's because the stock has done really well. So it just kind of depends on like what's going on in the market. But in my opinion, in the Bay Area, there's never necessarily a right time to get in. Even if you got in at these high interest rates, you can refinance it.
Would you ever buy like core SF though, or just stay around?
I think you could for sure. I'm hoping it'll come back, but I would still say I feel like the wheels need to continue to come off in that city.
Wow.
Before more happens. I mean, you're seeing it happen. Like the China president came here.
Yeah.
And you saw the before and after photos of the same street. People outside of the Twitter headquarters were saying like, this is what it was yesterday. This is what it is today.
They turned homeless people into
exactly.
plants.
And you can like somehow move them like, like they're like cardboard boxes or something. Jeez. And so if the city wants to clean it up, I believe that they can, but there's not enough incentives. I mean, the amount of businesses that have stopped being in San Francisco, whether it's Whole Foods to Walgreens,
banks closing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that this area is just going to be a tech hub. COVID was potentially the ultimate test of that, with companies moving out and remote work becoming a thing. But what's happening right now? All of the tech companies are pulling people back in. No, we want you here 5 days a week.
How many days a week is average right now? What are you seeing?
3.
3 days in office. So are you seeing people commute to like the Oakleys and the Concords, commute from there?
You're seeing it. I'm actually even seeing people moving back to the Bay Area specifically, whether they had moved even further out from those areas.
Okay.
But you see that, I think, but there's also too, like as traffic starts to pick up, you're going to see them like, do I want a 3,000 square foot home in Oakley or some of these other places? Right. Or do I want a 1,200 square foot home, $1 million home that at least I'm like home with the family? So, if time's the ultimate currency, it's really where do you value that?
Wow. What about Apple Provision? That's supposed to come out. Is that going to be the next iPad? Is that an iPad moment in your?
Yeah, I would say so for the virtual reality space, in that, really with Apple coming to the VR market and really mixed reality market, it's going to be, I think, a game changer, because it for Apple to put out a product in that space says enough. And when they typically put out a product, it's high quality. I still think the issue with Apple's product is it's too expensive for the mass market. And so hopefully people will always pay up, kind of like, the Tesla stretch is what they call it. And we all know, people will also overpay for iPhones and other things like that.
The Tesla stretch, that's like, I want it. So therefore I will pay more. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Like people were paying $55,000 when they could really only afford $30,000, but they were willing to do it because they wanted the iPhone. They wanted that thing. Right.
Okay.
So that's what they were during the early days of Tesla with the Model 3. That's what they were calling the Tesla stretch. But I would say for Apple to have this product, there's a couple things that still need to change, but it's going to level the landscape for the future, and saying that this is a reality. This is going to happen, because even when I've put on headsets, to be able to have my workplace literally 15 monitors in one, it's a game changer.
But isn't it like give you a headache or bother you? Or?
No, not necessarily. I mean, especially as the devices get lighter.
Okay. So it's more weight is more of a problem than your eyes.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you're either looking at the screen in the headset or the screen on your actual screen.
Because imagine you have something that's, fairly light on top of your head, and I can see both of you, but then I could also see potentially, YouTube. Like maybe I don't need to communicate with you. I can see YouTube going, maybe one of Meet Kevin's episodes. I can also see, Slack. I can also see like, my spreadsheets and all that.
I mean, I got like 10 monitors right now to do that.
Exactly.
And so you're saying kind of like replace all that crap.
Exactly. And you're still able to see through it. You can still see your coworkers and colleagues.
We could be, as we're sitting here, like, let me show you an example. Let me open up this thing, throw it on the wall, and now we're all looking at the wall. And I think that's a cool feature.
So that, I mean, like, how far out are we though?
I think for Apple, their Vision Pro, it's too heavy and it still needs to be hooked by a cord.
Okay.
I think they need to remove the cord, and it needs to reduce the rate by it needs to be a fraction of what it's at now. It's too heavy, in my opinion, for it to become mass market. But I think with Apple coming in the market, it is the mic drop of like, this is the future. Like this is going to be potentially the next computer of like VR, mixed reality is the next computer. If they can do it right. But, I think it's still very much the beginning.
Wow. So it could be sort of I remember when the iPads first came out, there was really nothing like it then, and nobody knew they needed an iPad. Now I feel like I have 10 of these things. They're amazing.
Same thing with the Apple Watch. Like if I don't have my Apple Watch, I don't see all the notifications coming through.
Sure. Yeah.
So I literally, when I check my phone, maybe every 30 minutes, I'm like looking through. I'm like, this is insane. Versus at least you can kind of keep an idea of what's going on.
Right, or something urgent or whatever. That's a good point.
Yeah.
What am I missing, Mikey?
Well, I have an FSD question. You mentioned FSD a couple times today. Do you think that's going to be like, will it live up to the hype? Will it be this insane new step forward? Or do you think it's going to be kind of more moderate steps like the previous updates have been?
I think, V12, for it to be V12, it's stepping out of beta. And I think the reason why
12's out of stepping out of beta?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So that's why there's been less regulation on the Tesla side, is because everything's been labeled as beta. So at least, again, I don't know if it's going to get relabeled, but my understanding is FSD is V12. It's not beta. So it's supposed to be a huge step up. There have been some leaked videos that I've seen, and the footage looks pretty good. So I definitely think it's going to live up to the hype, but I don't know if it's going to be, like, are we going to turn on Autonomy 5 tomorrow? No. I think it's still going to be a minute. But I definitely think it's going to be completely revamped. Like when I spent time about 18 months ago with Elon talking about FSD, he told me the amount of times that they had to rebuild the stack of code for full self-driving was, I think it was like over 20 times. And this is stuff like, I get an update, a software update, and then I complain about it if it's not what I want it to be. But I have no idea like the stuff that these engineers are having to redo.
What do you mean rebuild the stack? Like the whole code stack, basically?
Sometimes, yeah.
And how is 12 different from that? Is that just a rebuild, or is it because
it's supposed to be based off of the neural network?
Okay, so
which is like pure vision. Like there's literally like minimal training. I mean, if you look, like they're not building code for every edge case.
I see.
The stop in California, like the stop sign in California, they have to build code for that because that's a law now. So it's like, or they have to build that. But for everything else, they're building a general base so that it can handle anything. So it just puts in coordinates, whether a kid jumps out versus, having leaves on the ground or a pothole, like it's able to handle anything and then can learn and get better. So it's based off the neural network is going to be the biggest thing, with Dojo obviously coming online, which supposedly I believe it already is online. Yeah, I mean, V12 should be, hopefully big steps forward.
So 11 has no, well, I mean, I know it has a lot of training, but it's not trained the same way 12 is. No. So we're a completely different style of training.
Yeah.
The video feedback training.
11 is like, here's some instructions, follow this, and then we'll adjust. 12 is like, observe. I'm
almost somewhat scared because I like 11 so much.
Yeah.
It's already so good. And so I'm like, please don't mess it up.
Yeah. Elon's always been an advocate for vision-based, right? He says like humans drive cars with just their vision, so a computer should be able to do it too. Do you agree with that decision, or are you more in support of the redundancies like LiDAR, radar?
I mean, from what I've seen, I definitely believe in that. I mean, they've that's the way to tackle it. Because can you imagine driving it around in a Waymo, like with all these like things spinning around? I mean, rather than having like 20, the rims that used to spin all the time, like you're just gonna have this, like I think the way that he's tackling it is just like anything else. Like I think there's certain benefits and certain potential cons on it, but overall, I think this is the way to go. I mean, you don't want to have to deal with, you want it to be able to, you want to build a system that is general, that can handle certain situations versus building, you know, the pure vision plus putting ultra sensors into it, plus putting lighting, you know, all that other stuff. So, I mean, even V11 right now, there is a basis for the pure vision too, but again, it's not completely on the level that V12 will be. So,
can I use Apple Pro Vision since it would be augmented while driving?
It's pass-through
It's
vision. In
possible.
theory, I would think you should be able to.
yeah,
wonder
depending
what
on
the
the Wi-Fi
latency is.
connection. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we need to be Wi-Fi.
And potentially if there's any delay.
lag.
Yeah, that would
Can
ruin
you
it.
imagine?
I wouldn't do it if there's lag.
But
Yeah.
cruise
Hold on,
kind of-
pedestrian. I'm lagging. I'm rubber banding.
Sorry, lag. Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to unpack cruise. I mean, I don't know what those guys like, what the latency is on for them, but like
true.
they're doing it right. They're all sitting in a call center
Yeah.
or a video center, whatever you want to call it. They're literally watching this stuff happen live. And so the question is more of like how much of their stuff is real time.
That's interesting. Yeah. See, because that's where the vision becomes a game changer. Is I hate leaving my studio because I like having all my crap. Like I my keyboard, everything's set up just perfect the
Yep.
way I want it. I need to go live instantly. I can do
Yep.
it. I need to make a recorded video, stream someone, or interview someone,
Totally.
or whatever. All my work is right there. And so, like if you could turn that into in the future a headset, which I imagine you'll be able to, it's just a matter of when, and I could basically take my office everywhere. That
Yeah, and just you put it on, and then everything is set up the way you want it.
yeah.
So you're taking your
Yeah,
studio with
that
you.
would be very nice in the car,
The plane, everything.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. This is very interesting, very exciting, very
Got
insightful.
one last question.
Yeah, of course.
This morning when you were talking with Sawyer on your call, there was talk about how people are getting desensitized at this point to Elon's tweets or posts,
Yeah.
and how it's less drastic. With this year, with the election coming up, do you think people will be triggered once more, or do you think it really won't matter? Do you think he'll say something so spicy that he's going to lose support or impact the share price in a negative way?
I feel like I don't know if he's necessarily he could tweet anything that has already been more polarizing than previous things.
How
In
bad
the
can it
past-
get?
Yeah,
In other
like,
words.
in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, people already potentially know he's going to support one side versus the other. So I don't think, I think in some ways I do agree with that. Like, I do think people are desensitized. I do think we are getting to a point now where people, the fear of stock, again, we had this conversation earlier, the fear of the stock of like, how is this going to damage the Tesla brand?
Right.
And, sure, maybe there was some headwinds of like, hey, is Elon focused of Tesla and all this other stuff? But we all know, like, Investor Day showcased all of these leaders.
Yeah.
And with the way Tesla runs, Elon, even at Tesla, there's certain things that he is focused on. He's focused on autopilot, the manufacturing. He's not focused on some of the business operations stuff of it if he needs to be. Same thing with SpaceX, right? He's got Gwen running that. Same thing with X. He's got Linda. So there's certain things that he is focused on. He knows like this is going to be a game changer for this company, and what he enjoys is what he's going to focus on. Sure, when he came to X, I mean, he literally was pretty much living there, right? It was like production hell all over again. Right. And he had to manage the finances and everything else. But now, like you see it now, he's the CTO, the chief technology officer, focusing on the product and all the other stuff. So this year, definitely, I mean, I'm expecting that he will say certain things that are just going to piss people off, especially because it's an election year. But I don't think that that's going to do anything else that it already hasn't.
Would it free him up to be like the CTO at Tesla as opposed to the CEO? I know that's unpopular, because people hear it, but you mentioned it yourself. He's not the CEO of Starlink. But he's the runner. He's the visionary, right? Same thing at Twitter, or X now. He's the visionary. You can be the visionary without being caught up and bogged down in the.
Well, I think in a lot of ways he already is the CTO or whatever you want to call it. He's not focused on certain aspects. I mean, obviously. There's certain implications. Like I've heard, crazy stories of, and I don't know if this is still true, where Elon had to sign every PO more than $50,000 at Tesla.
Oh,
So there was but that's doomsday stuff. So is he on that still now? Maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it's just one of those things where, he already is very much focused on, the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of like autopilot, of manufacturing, like all the stuff that they're probably doing with the Robotaxi.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he might not be focused as much on, the supply chain or some of these other things,
That's
right?
fair.
That so I do think that being the CEO though has certain connotations, positive connotations.
Okay.
So like, him being the CEO at Tesla and SpaceX have certain things, but I think maybe with Twitter and X, him not being the CEO actually kind of removes him a little bit from it.
I agree
and
with
it
that.
becomes more of like a personality. So he's very strategic in how,
It's structured.
Good
for him. Okay, I like that. What about advertising? Last question I got.
Yeah, Tesla. Yeah, well, I think I think they sold 1.8 million cars last year, 38% growth. I think the reality is we are getting to a situation where more awareness is important, more than ever. And I think how do you get more butts in seat? Because the early days where, man, if I can just get my neighbor driving my Tesla, he's going to be a Tesla owner in the future. Like I can't tell you how many coworkers in 2018 I was literally driving around or having them get in my car, and they all own Teslas now.
Wow.
Even family too. And so I think
it spreads faster than COVID.
Yeah, it might. But once you get outside of these big cities like in LA, like the Bay Area, like how do you get to the everyday people that are living Sacramento, living in Fresno? Like how do you build that awareness? How do you get, because I think even on Twitter or X, Elon has, I think he even responded to you at the shareholder meeting. Like that's the same base. Like there's 168 million people that are following him right now. They all know about the certain technologies, and sure, maybe they're not current owners, but how do you get outside of that to build the awareness? And I think that will come with education, with advertising and awareness, that Tesla, obviously I know they're doing a lot of testing right now with advertising, but this is going to be their biggest hurdle that they'll need to tackle in the upcoming years is general awareness of their amazing vehicles.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is really
thank you for your time.
Yeah, totally. How can people follow you?
Yeah. So follow us on Tesla Owners SV or TeslaSiliconValley.com. You can find us. And yeah, we're pretty much on every platform with that same handle.
Price target? You said 750 to 1,000, right?
Yes.
When? That was the last thing.
I'm hoping that Tesla will triple from its current, hopefully by 5 years.
What about the handle I see on Twitter all the time? Tesla will triple in 2020.
That's a space, and actually the value analyst guy he had to not give any price targets for a whole year, and he lapped that. That's why you would all see the Tesla spaces. Tesla will triple, because he was clearly off. But I think I'm hoping within this year and the next 3 years, we have another bull run. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to go up 700% like we did 3 or 4 years back. But Tesla is definitely way undervalued.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF and hold long positions in various securities mentioned, including potential short positions. However, I have no relationship to any issuers, nor am I presently acting as a market maker.